Lemon challenge. Let's go.
Woo!
I think the worst part was the seeds.
That was disgusting.
Hey guys, PT here for another week of Elevate. Guys, obviously we're doing something a little bit different. Usually we're at the church, and this week we're in my kitchen. We're doing something a little bit different. We're doing a challenge that you can participate in. So here's the challenge. The name of the game is the Lemon Challenge. Easy, super simple. Here's how it works. You get a lemon, you get a knife, you cut up the lemon into 4 slices, and then with one of those slices, you bite into it, okay? You eat it. And then for as long as you can, look directly into the camera and don't make a face. If you flinch, if you do this kind of face or whatever, you lose. You try to do it for as long as you can. If you participate, if you decide to play along, you can post it on your own social media, put it on your Instagram, put it on your Facebook, put it on your Snapchat, Twitter, whatever. Tag us, elevate_3i, and for however long you can do it, whoever has the longest time will win a Starbucks gift card. That's how you win, that's how you play. But for right now, let's see how I do and how our friends do. Let's do it. Lemon, knife, let's do it. All right, here we go. We got our lemon, about a quarter slice. Face the camera, don't flinch, don't make a face for as long as you can. I'll count, I'll keep the timer. Let's do it, here we go. Okay. I think I did. Oh!
Lemon challenge. Let's go.
Okay, I'm using 2 limes because I don't have any lemons, so let's do this thing. That was disgusting.
Okay, there we go. Cheers. Ooh! Let's get this shot. Do we? Well, that was fun.
Well, all right, the challenge is up to you now. Go home, pick yourself up, quarter lemon slice, stick it in your mouth, eat it without flinching for as long as you can. Hope to see you then. Make sure you tag us, elevate_3i. And guys, let's get going with the rest of the service. Hey guys, welcome back to Elevate. Woo, that was really loud. Hey guys, welcome back to Elevate. I'm glad you guys are here with us today. I have a story for you, okay? Now, I'm pretty sure it's a story I've already shared with you, but I really don't care. It's got a good illustration. I think I'm just like that grandpa that you had that just keeps telling you the same stories over and over again. Yeah, do you ever remember that story I told you? Or did I ever tell you that one time? Back when I was in high school, I had a chore that I had to do every single Saturday, and that was mow the lawn. If you're like me, I don't like it. I didn't like it. I do not like mowing the lawn. It's like one of those things that you have to do every single week, and because I have to do it every single week, I don't like it. This one particular time, I think I was like a sophomore or junior, and my dad woke me up. It was a Saturday morning, and so that morning I wanted to sleep in, but my dad woke me up and told me to go mow the lawn. So me being, annoyed and whatever, I decided to go, fine, I'll go mow the lawn. Now here's the thing about my dad. My dad likes to mow the lawn a certain way. He likes it to look a certain way. He likes it cut a certain way. He just likes it in a very peculiar way. way. One of those peculiar ways is to collect the grass in the lawn mower. So you have like this little bag that you put on the back of the lawnmower, and as you're going, it'll collect the grass. That's kind of cool, but the sucky thing is that it gets heavy and you have to unload it and then put it into a trash bag, and then you put it off on the side, and it just takes a lot of work and it's just annoying. I didn't want to do that. So if I was going to mow the lawn, well fine, I'm not going to put a bag on. I thought, you know, you can't even notice it, you can't even see the grass after you mow it, you can't even notice, so what's the big deal? So I get done mowing the whole backyard without the bag, and I move to the front lawn, and I'm about halfway done with the front lawn, and my dad comes out, and he basically tells me to stop, and he says, Tim, where's the bag? And I kind of play it dumb, like, what bag, Dad? And he goes, you know what I'm talking about, the bag to get all the grass. You need to go back and collect it all. Thus ensued a very heated conversation about why it even matters to collect the grass in the first place. And I made it to the point to where I was like, you know what, Dad, look, I reached down to the ground and I like picked up like just 1 or 2 pieces of grass. Like, look, there's hardly anything there. And then he grounded me for like 3 months. At that point, I was mad, I was livid. But the reason why I was so mad was because I wanted to know why. Why did I have to bag the grass? I mean, even if I was told why, I probably still wanted to do it. But given that why would have helped, I would have at least liked to know why I was doing what I was doing. It irritated me. His why didn't make sense. Any of you guys been in a situation like that? The reason why I'm talking about this is because we are actually concluding this series that we've been talking about for this month, titled A Blessed New Year. We've been reviewing this passage of scripture found in Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus is on the Sermon on the Mount. This is where he's giving the Sermon on the Mount, and he's talking about the Beatitudes and what it means to live a happy life. And so we've been talking about all the different areas and how we can live that happy life and what it can do for us. But now, today, we're concluding this series, and we're talking about one of the most important things that we can talk about when it comes to this segment of scripture, and that is the why. Why does Jesus want us to be happy? Why are these Beatitudes so important to our lives? And as we talk about it in the context of this year, why is it so important for us to apply to our lives for this year? And so today we're going to talk about why Jesus has given us these directions, these Beatitudes, these list of things that will make us so happy, and why he wants us to be oh so happy. Today's message is titled, Tell Me Why. Tell me why ain't nothing but a party. So to get this lesson started, we're going to review the passage of scripture that we've been reading for this month and for this series. Let's get into it. Matthew chapter 5. Now when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up onto the mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. He said, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. So kind of like my story before, have you ever had a moment of, like an epiphany where you realized why you were doing what you were doing? Maybe it was kind of like a big puzzle piece kind of moment, like, oh, like that one piece finally made everything kind of crystal clear. Or maybe you've taken a shortcut thinking that it was going to take less time to do something, but it ended up actually taking more time. So recently, my friend Chris and I, he's like my best friend, we decided to embark on this new project, and includes using a brand new mixer. This is a mixer board, and it controls audio and audio. I bought it brand new. It's not that fancy, it's not that exciting, but it enables us to record our voices and record other things. I got this out of the box, and I remember when I was getting it out, I got the instructions out. Now, I don't like to brag, and nor do I call myself an expert. However, I've been messing around with soundboards for a long time. Like, ever since I was in elementary school, my dad would put me into the sound booth in the kids ministry, and he would let me run the soundboard. I've been doing that pretty much ever since, so I have a little bit of experience. So I figured it was just gonna be a piece of cake. It was gonna be simple and easy for what I was trying to do. It wouldn't be that hard. One day, I'm setting up my brand new mixer, and I'm setting it with my computer. And as I'm doing this, there's some complications that get in the way. And I'm not gonna bog you with the details, but it basically kind of got me confused, and there were some things that I was trying to figure out. So I went back to the box of where I got the mixer from, and I couldn't find the instructions. I think I had accidentally thrown them away. And because of that, I had to spend the next like 4 hours on YouTube researching and YouTubing videos for how to use this mixer properly. If I would have kept those instructions, it would have saved me a lot of time. It would have helped me to get to where I needed to go much faster. Why do we have instructions? To help us. In other words, the why matters. It matters. You know, when it comes to what Jesus gives us, the why does matter. It's important. And so in the same way, these Beatitudes, the things that Jesus is talking about, there's a why to it. And today we're actually going to continue in the passage of scripture, and we're going to talk about why Jesus has these Beatitudes for us, why he tells his disciples to do these things. Jesus didn't tell us these Beatitudes, these things, as just a suggestion or as just as like a thing to consider. They actually have real impactful implications into our lives and the people of the lives around us. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about why Jesus said these things to us and why it's so important for us to not just soak it up, but to actually live it out in this brand new year. All right, so for point number 1, we're continuing this passage of scripture. It's starting in Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. It says this: "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." Point number 1 is to preserve and protect. So 2 things about this little short passage of scripture here. The word you here is not just now individual. Like for all the Beatitudes, it's been kind of like this hypothetical you, like you individually need to do these things. But now he is talking to the collective you. He's saying you all, basically, if you want to get Texan, y'all need to do these things. Y'all are the salt of the earth. In other words, this is really important for us as Christians to apply to our lives. We all of us Christians need to be the salt of the earth. Now, what has salt had to do with anything? In the first century ancient Israel, salt had some pretty important implications. It had 3 very big roles. Number 1, it did make things taste better. 2, it actually represented purity at the time. And number 3, it preserved. In other words, it was used to help food decay slower. Jesus implied by this metaphor that we, Christ followers, could actually positively affect people around us. We now have the opportunity to preserve and protect what God has given us and to basically preserve the good God nature that God is trying to give all of us. In other words, when we embrace God, when we embrace Jesus, and when we live out the things that he's given us, we are now preserving the God goodness that is around us, his presence and his goodness. But in the same way that salt protects meat and it preserves the meat, we too are called to be the salt of goodness and of faithfulness and of all the qualities that God is. And when we choose to live out like these Beatitudes, we are preserving, we are protecting what it means to be Christ-like here on earth. And another way of looking at this is that salt was unique because it was different, both in its texture, both in its quality, both in what it did. It was very unique compared to pretty much anything else. And so in the same way, we are called to be different. We are called to be set apart. We are called to be holy, to be the example, to be the difference in both the lives of just the people around us, but even in a grander scheme as the church. We are called to be the salt of the earth. Jesus wants us to be ready to preserve and to protect, to just like Dwight Schrute when Roy tried to come up and beat Jim up, and he used what he had to, it was pepper spray to defend Jim and everyone else, and he kind of goes on about how he protected the whole office. Jesus wants us to be ready. He wants us like salt that absorbs water. He wants us to absorb what he has taught us and to use that and to apply to our lives so that way we can better our community. All right, so to continue on, Matthew chapter 5, starting in verse 14, Jesus says this: "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house." So in the same way that Jesus wanted his disciples, you and I, to preserve and protect, he also wants us to be an example, to actually be the ambassadors and to be what it means to be a Christ follower. I mean, if you want to think about it like this, is when people look at you and me, we are called to look like Jesus. Now, obviously, we're not perfect, and that's why we have to constantly seek for forgiveness and to ask people for forgiveness. But when people look at us, they should be able to see a resemblance of Christ. They should be able to see that how that person looks like Jesus and they are behaving like Jesus. Here's the thing about light. Light back then and even today, it has always symbolized purity, it has always symbolized truth, it has always symbolized something good, something positive. And so when Jesus is calling us to be like a light to the world and to be a light, like a light stand, like a lamp, he is calling us to be that example, to shine brightly. I think about, this is really funny, but you ever seen A Bug's Life? One random little scene, and it's these 2 bugs and they're by one of those little bug catchers, and it's like a little it's a light, but it attracts bugs, but it's like a bug zapper. Is how like the light is so bright and it's so attractive that people just can't help but move towards that light. And so we are called to be that positive light to the world. We're called to be so good, so loving, so compassionate, so kind, so all these other things that we just talked about the past few weeks. We're called to do these things so well that people are attracted not to us, but to the Jesus inside of us. And so when we choose to practice these Beatitudes, what it means to live a happy life, our lives become so positive, they become so refreshing that people are attracted to that. They're attracted to, and they begin to question, why are you so happy? Why are you so positive? Why are you this way? And that's when we get to share it. It's because of Jesus. It's because of what he's done for me. And it's because of what he's gotten me through. To be a salt and to be a light is to be the examples, it's to be the ambassadors, it's to be the representation of who Christ is. When we choose to apply those Beatitudes, when we choose to apply what God has taught us and to live it out, we become the preservatives, we become the protectors, and we become a light to our world. And so that's really exciting for you and me. That means that we get to accept that responsibility, but also accept that privilege to be Christ's light here on earth. We are that branch. We are that representation of who he is. And that makes me really excited. All right, so Jesus summarizes this whole thing, all the Beatitudes, all the why. He summarizes it all in this last passage of scripture in Matthew chapter 5. He says this: "In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." So in this part, in this last passage of scripture, Jesus is summarizing it all. He's basically categorizing in how the Beatitudes and everything that he has taught us can have three grand purposes. Basically, when we follow Jesus, when we apply these Beatitudes, when our lives become oh so happy, it serves three big purposes. Number one, we benefit. When we choose to, kind of like we were talking about the past few weeks, is when we choose to apply these Beatitudes, whether it's those who mourn, those who seek righteousness, all these different things, when we apply those to our lives become happy. We become that. We become, it's not just like a, hey, just do these things because I said so. Jesus wants us to do these things so that way we can be happy, so that way we can live a fulfilling life. You know, it's not just some cheap happiness that we get when we play a game or when we just spend a few minutes on social media. It's like, you ever just like had a really long day and you go home and you just sit down in your favorite spot. Maybe it's on your bed, maybe it's on your couch, and you got a pillow, you got a blanket, and you just feel like this sense of like, oh, that's this. When we choose to live out the way God has instructed us to, it brings that fulfillment to our lives. If it fills us, it brings us hope, it brings us peace, it brings us goodness, and it brings us comfort. It brings us this sense that, God, you're with me, and we get to see that played out in our lives. We live a more fulfilling life. Number two, what these Beatitudes and all these other things brings is it brings benefit for others. And this is actually point number three, is that everyone benefits. When we all collectively, just like I mentioned at the beginning of this message, is when we choose to accept these things, everyone benefits. Just like I mentioned at the beginning of this message, when we, as Jesus has called us, we as Christians begin to live this out, we begin to better our community. We begin to better our church. We begin to better our neighborhood. We begin to better our school, our classes, all those things. When we choose to live a blessed life, it betters not just us, but the people around us. It's like, you ever just been in a room full of people who are just like boring or just who aren't very fun? It kind of stinks, right? When we choose to live that out, when we choose to have that happiness in our lives, we kind of just become this light in a classroom. We become this light in whatever room we're in, and we become like this beacon of hope because of who is in us. And like I mentioned in the last point, is when people see that, they become attracted to that light, to that goodness, to Jesus, and they too want to take in that happiness. They too want to follow Jesus. So when we choose happiness, when we choose these Beatitudes, people benefit. Everyone benefits. And then number three, this is really cool and great to think about, and this is what Jesus says, is that it glorifies God. And basically what this means is that when we choose to live out this life, when we choose to have joy, to have peace, to do these Beatitudes, we are bringing glory to a real substance. We are bringing weight to something that is real. In other words, we're kind of fulfilling point number two, is that we are showing the world that we are following someone who not only just really exists, but actually really does benefit you, who really does benefit us all. People will recognize that when we live a certain way, when we follow Jesus and God, God and his calling for us, when we actually do what he says, our lives become better, and therefore God is glorified in that. We show people, like an ambassador, that this is what happens when you follow God. And it's twofold. It's when we glorify God, people are now attracted to Jesus, and Jesus wants you. Jesus wants us. He wants everyone. He wants everyone to know his love. He wants everyone to know what he can do for them. He wants everyone to know that he is for them and not against them, and that he loves them unconditionally. To wrap this all up, to wrap up this whole message and this whole series, Beatitudes, they're not just a great lesson. It's not just a cool series to talk about, but it's actually something that's really important. Is when we can accept these things into our lives, when we can choose to live them out, when we can choose to try to apply it to our everyday lives, our lives are changed. We become new people. Our actions change, our attitudes change, the way we look at a year changes. And then once we begin to change, people around us will notice that change, and they too want to see that change in their lives. We talk about this new year 2021, and we talked about, I'm sure you've talked about to yourself and friends, and how 2020 was bleh and garbage and whatever, and some people are saying, well, 2021 may not be better. I think it's all about our attitude. I think it's about who we are pursuing. I think that if we choose to follow Jesus and if we choose to apply the things that he has given us, I think it doesn't matter what the world can throw at us. I believe that God can make our lives so much more fulfilling than we could ever imagine. So let me encourage you, be blessed this year. Choose blessedness. Choose to be with Jesus. Choose to be with him. Choose to follow him and pursue him and to seek him in everything you do. And when you do, your life and the life of those around you will be changed forever.
What's up, you guys? Thank you for joining us for today for the fun challenge and the message.
Yes, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and ring that bell, which is somewhere. Ring-a-ding-ding.
So you can get
Because-
notified.
Yeah,
Of all
you guys
of our
need to
stuff.
know about all the stuff that we're dumping on you, because literally, it's so much.
It's good content.
But it's quality.
Yes. So that's all from us. See you guys next time.
We love you guys.
Bye.